My name is Robert Simic. Welcome to the world of coaching. I've been getting a lot of questions about empowerment lately, so I wanted to make this video for you to share and contribute as much as I can on the subject. Empowerment has always been a big word out there, and nowadays probably overused more than ever before. You know, empowerment this, empowerment that, people need empowerment, vote for me kind of thing, you know. But the fact remains, people now, more than ever, need empowerment. People feel tired and rather exhausted, feeling truly disempowered and helpless in this world, don't they? I think that there's a major misunderstanding about it that has been crippling our societies from the very beginning of time. I can tell you with confidence that this misunderstanding is also number one reason for why people don't heal. Number one reason why people struggle financially, emotionally, or in their relationships. Most of it because of this one misunderstanding about empowerment. And I have some good news that I would love to share with you today if you wanted to. What specifically is empowerment and how you could have it easily? So, how would you like to understand what empowerment is, what determines it, and how to get it yourself? You see, all coaches in the world today should already know that empowerment is nothing more, nothing less than just an attitude. Clients come to us coaches empowered already or disempowered. They're either taking full responsibility for the results that they have in their lives, or they're blaming the world for their results. Have you heard of a statement, cause causes a certain effect? It's one of the principles of life and nature that we live in. And it simply states that nothing happens for no reason. Something is causing something else. There's always a cause for each and every effect out there in the world. So cause causes a certain effect. You might be wondering now, okay, I know that, but what cause and effect has to do with my empowerment, you know? Well, in a moment, you will realize how it has everything to do with empowerment. In life, this is how obvious this gets. If you look at the entire population of this world, in this context, you'll find people to be on either of the two sides. Let me explain what which one means specifically so that you can understand it fully. People who live on the cause side of life, they have it all figured out and they have it very simple. People that live on the cause side of life, they have certain results in their life. And regardless of the nature of those results, they are claiming full responsibility for those results. And they're simply assuming that for the results to be there in their life, that must mean that they created it. Pretty bold attitude to have, hey? I'll come back to this in a moment. Let's look at the people on the effect side of life for a minute. How are they going about life? What makes them on the effect side of life? Well, their equation is a bit more complex. You see, they seem to play some sort of flip-flopping game here. People on the effect side of life don't have results per se. They have a bunch of reasons instead. They have reasons or excuses for why their life turned out in a way that it did. And I said flip-flopping because they are capable of crossing that line and being on the cause side of life every once in a while. But more often than not, they spend their time on the effect side of life. How this usually works for them, you see, when they have results in their life that they are proud of or happy with, and if you were to ask them how did that came about, they would take full responsibility for it and claim to be the cause for that effect in their life. You know, who did this? Me. I did that. And it just feels great, of course, and that's fantastic, isn't it? It's a wonderful feeling good and in charge of our results in life. But now, if it feels so good, why would they ever go back to the effect side of life? You see, they also have some results that they are not so happy about, nor proud of. And it seems that most people are not inclined to claim responsibility for those effects too, to avoid feeling bad or to be the one to blame. What they do is they step down and they go to the effect side of life. They very quickly find someone or something else to blame, and they would point their fingers really quickly towards something, anything at all, outside of themselves. And on some level, I can understand this behavior. After all, we all do all sorts of things, big or small, to avoid feeling pain, physically or emotionally, don't we? But this has far-reaching effects in our lives, and it all has a lot to do with empowerment. Just stay with me on this one. People on the effect side of life got to change the laws of the universe, you know, like cause and effect, right? and change this equation solely based on their own fondness of the result that they have. So if they like their result, they take full responsibility for its creation. I did it, right? But if they don't like the result that they have, then they quickly develop a bunch of reasons of why or how that happened to them. And although this causes immediate relief, I guess, and comforting feelings, because they're not the one to blame. It wasn't their fault and things like that, yeah? It also has far-reaching negative effects in their lives, and I bet that they are not even aware of it. Let me give you an example here, okay? Let's see if you understood this. A really good friend of mine, I remember asking him once, as he was quite an inspiration to me back then. I just immigrated to this country and had about $300 in my pocket. That's all I had. And he was in the same situation like me, just 10 years before we met, right? And now he's a very, very successful businessman. He has his own companies, few houses, great cars, and seemingly great quality of life. And when I asked him how did he get there, how did it all happen for him, can you guess what he said? He said, and I'm quoting here, "I created this company with my own two hands. And I had a full-time job and worked my bum off many late evenings until I was in a position to have my own business. And then I just built it up from there," right? This was very inspiring to me, and I found even more hope in that. I too could one day be successful like him and sort out my own life story, right? It was the old story of, my dad never gave me anything, and I had to do it all on my own, right? So you could see it from a mile ahead that this man was fully in charge of his career in his life, and that the result that he has, he claims full responsibility for affecting those in his life, right? So he certainly seems to be on the core side of life and feeling rather empowered in this context. By the way, what do you think? How must it feel, feeling so empowered and in charge of one's own destiny, regardless of the context in life? It must be pretty amazing and empowering, right? I remembered his voice, his posture, his whole being was communicating to me that this is something good and that it really feels good to be in that space. I found it rather inspiring, really, and I still talk about it today, you see. And it was much later in our friendship that I asked him once, "How's your wife? How's your kid doing?" And his answer was very, very different. Let's see if you can notice the difference in his attitude, in the way he speaks, or actually the way he thinks and feels about this effect, this result in his life. He said something along the lines of, "Man, don't go there. If I only married a different woman." Well, I think he actually referred to her as it at the time, right? So whatever came out of his mouth after that was all the blame and criticism about his wife, about his kid, being like this or being like that. How his relationships were a complete mess because of them. And it was the first time that I experienced this man seemingly helpless. It seemed as if he was stuck in his life in this context, and he had no power, no say in that whole thing. And it was really wearing him down. And it seemed as if he just wanted out of his skin. His posture changed, his voice changed, and he had no energy, no spark of life left in him. So what happened here really seems to be very, very common. It seems to me that we as people, we tend to claim full-on responsibility for all of our results that we are fond of, for all of our results that we are proud of and happy with. And at the same time, for the things that we are not happy with in our lives, for the results that we are not proud of, it seems as if most people would really quickly disempower themselves and unclaim their responsibility in creating that effect in their lives. It seems like there's an infinite amount of reasons or excuses that we can come up with to excuse ourselves from those undesired results, right? When kids are behaving well, what do we say? It's my kid. And when they embarrass us or behave badly, what do we say? That's mom's boy, right? And or he's from that side of the family, right? But it seems to me that this cause thing, it's up for grabs, and that there's a major difference in how we go about it. We can either embrace the cause and pretend that we created all the results in our lives, or we can do that when we like the results and go to the effect side and pretend that we had nothing to do with it. Now, whenever I'm uncertain about something, whenever my scientific brain fails to provide an absolute truth about something, I choose to believe, feel, and do things that serve me. It certainly seems to be the most intelligent thing to do, doesn't it? I mean, if I cannot tell with absolute certainty how something came about, then we are left with choosing to believe one version of it, right? In the absence of the absolute truth, I choose what works for me the best. In the meantime, right? Does it make sense? So in all probability, we have no ways of scientifically proving yet that you had everything to do with the creation of those results in your life, nor can we disprove that. So at best, it seems like as if we are simply pretending that we caused some things and that some we didn't. And I can't help but wonder, how come what we are taking for granted is one version of the story that we decided upon, purely based on our own fondness of the results that we have? How come that we give it so much power and living it as one and only reality, when it really is just something that we are either pretending to be in charge of or pretending that we had nothing to do with, and it just happened to us? And this is where I found a much needed answer, a much deeper understanding of what empowerment is and what it isn't. And I realized that it's only an attitude, something that we are in full control of, and that we are either feeling empowered and we feel as if we have a say in our life, or we are feeling disempowered, feeling like a victim of life, where things are happening to us, where we have no say whatsoever, and we blame something, anything at all, for the result at hand. And all of the good and empowering feelings, and all of the negative, crippling, draining and disempowering feelings, they all come 100% only depending on our thinking at the time, depending on our attitude of empowerment. We are either on the cause side of life or we are on the effect side of life, depending solely on this attitude. And that in turn creates our thinking and feeling about it all, right? Now, you see, most of our clients don't really know that. They often come to us fully on the effect side of life, and textbook example, client says he wants to make more money in his life. Money just always escapes him and he was never able to make any meaningful money, never mind save some, right? So I go, all right, so why don't you make money? What is preventing you? And client says something along the lines of, I grew up in a very poor family. So my parents couldn't afford any good education for me. Then he goes on about the global crisis, that's a usual one, financial depression in the world, inflation, petrol prices rising all the time, you know, food and everything really is just getting more and more expensive. Taxation system in this country, they want half of my income, you know, who can save any money in this place, right? And on he goes, all winded up, retelling himself a story he must have told himself many times before. At least he seemed very versed at it, right? So my answer to him was, say 5 minutes into our session, I said, all right, session's finished then. Now, if you knew what it takes to end up as a client and have me coach you one-on-one, you'd know how much of a shocker it would be if 5 minutes into the session I told you that we are done here, right? Guys, I usually get my clients to demonstrate their investment in their improvement. I get them to work really hard sometimes prior to even seeing me. You'd know how much of a shocker it would be if 5 minutes into the session I told you that we are done for now, right? I usually get my clients to demonstrate their investment in their improvement. I get them to work really hard sometimes prior to even seeing me. You see, the skills that we have today allow us to help our clients make just about any change whatsoever in their lives. And because of how quick and easy they get to be, to get to change, I want to make sure that I have an invested client who'd keep the change and who's willing to show up from their side. Anyway, his eyes popped up a bit and, slight confusion kicks in, and I carry on. I say, for our next session, I want you to bring the following. Now my client, realizing that we are not done yet, that there will be the next session, still slightly confused, he had a pen and paper ready to make a list of things that I need him to bring for our next session. So I said, I need you to bring me the following. I want you to bring me your poor schooling, your poor financial upbringing, the global depression and economic crisis, and taxation system of your country. And I'll do my absolute best to change these things for you. I'll try to, of course, reverse the time and somehow get your parents to give you a better schooling. I'll do my best to heal the world, the economy crisis, and I'll do my absolute best to get the officials of the taxation system in your country to change their laws and demands on you. Okay? Because it seems to me that if I were to do all that for you, your life should turn out just fine, all by itself, right? Now, you can imagine how he felt at the time, realizing how, although I'm a very powerful coach, changing actual taxation system wouldn't really be on my skill set list, right? I'm much better at helping people making much more money instead, right? And more importantly, client gets to hear themselves and realize that for as long as they stick with this story of poor me, it's not my fault, there are causes outside of me doing this to me, for as long as they have that story playing in their mind, those excuses, I or anyone else simply cannot help him. In fact, a deeper understanding of how we create our own reality and how the whole process happens inside of us, I'm 100% sure that even if I did change the actual world for him, that this same client would almost magically transition again into a new country. He'd move cities, countries, continents to find his old story again. One of my coaches from Hawaii, of all places, really shook my reality when I had some rather important questions, burdening questions that I've been carrying with me for quite some time back then. And he took a moment for a while and he looked back right into my eyes and he said, have you noticed that whenever there is a problem, you are there? And boy, did that get some steam out of my head. I think you could literally see steam coming out of my ears. I think I was about to explode. And then it all just calmed down inside of me. I had this deeper understanding that throughout my whole life, I had certain thoughts, problems, keep coming back into my life, and let's just say that you don't need to be a Sherlock Holmes to notice that in each of those events that I can remember, there were different people involved. These events even occurred on different continents, and that the only thing that was a common denominator, the only person that was always there, present at each one of the scenes, was me. If it was a crime scene of some sort, I would most definitely be the prime suspect. One of those, that would very congruently and wholeheartedly claim that it wasn't me. And yet, I was the only one that was always there. You don't need to be a genius to realize that I must have something to do with it, right? Have you noticed that whenever there is a problem, you are there too? Einstein called it insanity. He said that people do the same behavior over and over again, expecting a different result. He said that was a definition for insanity. Have you ever had some recurring problems, some sort of negative patterns that seemingly keep coming back in your life? Everybody knows that we keep repeating same mistakes. Until when? Until we learn. It's only when we truly learn and overgrow our perceived problems that they stop happening, that they disappeared forever. Isn't it like that? And what that has to do with empowerment, you may ask, and cause and effect equation? Well, you see, if it wasn't us, if we had nothing to do with it, and it just happened to us, how can we grow then? How can we learn from there? If I think, feel, and act as a victim, complaining and blaming something outside of me for my misfortune, if this is how I spend my valuable thinking time, what will ever come out of that? I would focus on the misery and feel that way, which will only bring me more of the same results. And if I even just pretend that it was always me, by default, if something is in my life, it simply means that is my doing and my responsibility. If I were to live my life like that, what would ultimately happen? What kind of questions would I ask myself? What kind of feelings would follow? And where would that lead me in life? What would I focus on? Instead of asking myself, why me? Poor me, I would approach it differently. I would probably ask myself, what can I learn from this? You see, if the presupposition is that I caused this experience in my life and I don't like it, then if I caused it, surely I could change my mind, my energy, my behavior, and cause something else now. What do I need to learn from my mistakes? As I was obviously making an unintentional mistake, right? What do I need to learn from this? To truly learn and overcome this issue inside of me so I can create a different, more preferred results in my life, right? One of my coaches, Tony Robbins, said the quality of the questions that we are constantly asking ourselves will determine the quality of our lives. So if I just get my clients to change their attitude, if I just get them to stop pretending to be the victim and have them pretend to be fully on the cause side of life, then the quality of their thinking would change. They would start asking some new questions. And as my client's questions change, he starts changing from within. Now imagine someone with money problems, or a challenging relationship, or having health issue of some sort. What do you think this kind of understanding, this kind of a shift would do for them and their quality of life? You must know of many examples when people simply had a different attitude, different set of beliefs and convictions about their own healing. So much so that they define the scientific understanding of what our bodies are capable of doing. When this happens in hospitals, when patients heal even though they were not supposed to, according to the tests and the disease stage they were in, then we call it a miracle, don't we? Our Western science cannot explain it. It shouldn't have happened, and yet it's there. So it's a miracle. I've been fortunate enough in my coaching practice and as a trainer, and I've seen so many miracles happening right before my eyes, where people would heal themselves from all sorts of diseases. I've seen people's ulcers evaporating, their chronic pains disappearing. I've seen all sorts of cancerous thoughts like that. I've seen so many miracles that it should stop being a miracle for me. It's just our nature's given right, and the ability to heal ourselves is not something that we need to learn how to do. So, why does the healing sometimes happen all by itself and sometimes it doesn't? Why some things are seemingly not possible to heal, while others we can? What do you think would happen if one were to pretend that even his physiological symptomology was somehow his own doing upon himself? What would happen if we were to ask the right questions, learn from it, and perhaps even give yourself and your body an instruction to go ahead and heal yourself? Well, perhaps you'd see as many miracles as I have seen happening around me and naturally inside of me. And don't take my word for it. Don't just take it for granted. Don't just take all of this in and go with it. Think about it first and then integrate it, if it makes sense to you. Or try it out for yourself and then own it, like I do. Now, same happens when we take ownership of other areas of our lives, when we swap excuses for results, when we step up in life and stop complaining about them, and learn, grow, and empower yourself further. It's a massive change, It would be an equivalent of running through life, feeling like you are not in control of anything, feeling as if someone else is having the joystick and rules your world. Think of a little Mario character in those games we played as kids. That little dude that's trapped inside of your game console, he has no say, and he gets to experience whatever you, the one that controls the joystick, decides for him, right? And as that may be the case for a poor Mario dude, we seem to have a choice available to every one of us. You see, whenever we decide that the cause for things in our lives is something outside of us. We give our personal power away and we become a play toy of outside forces. But if we always choose to believe and feel as if we have a say, as if we somehow magically brought those results in our lives, good or bad, hey? All those results that we have in our lives. What if you were to wake up one day and realize that you were the one that actually had the joystick all this time? That you have the controls, that you simply had an autopilot switched on all this time, and now you're taking it all back into your now much wiser hands. Then what's left behind that kind of attitude are feelings of empowerment. A whole new vibe comes over us. It's healthier for our body, feeling energized and all. People literally feel as if they just woke up from a dream, as if they were asleep in some way, and a whole new life starts. One of learnings, self-discovery, discovery of the abundant resources that we were given. A much richer and fulfilling life that's been waiting for us to wake up and explore it. Alright, I really enjoyed making this video for you, and I certainly hope you found value in watching it. Keep the learning, continue growing, and may you find what you seek outside, inside of you. I love you and I salute you and your heart. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now. Ciao.